All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I do have to apologize. I know this video is really late coming out. I'm so sorry, again, with the grading period ending and stuff like that. I do apologize again for not doing this earlier. Okay. So here's the thing. This lesson today, we're going to be talking about what happened after the French Revolution and who took over. Okay. Now, the objective, we're going to analyze the rise of Napoleon. Then we're going to examine the significance of the Napoleonic Code. And lastly, we're going to create an argument on whether Napoleon is taking on too much by challenging all of Europe. Yeah, you heard me right. He basically challenged all of Europe to a fight. So we're going to be looking at that, okay? So let's go ahead and look at the warm-up picture. So there it is for you, okay? The first question asks you, who is this person? Okay, so basically you heard me talk about him. You just heard me say his name several times in the objective. If you didn't catch it, go back like a minute and you'll see it. Um, the other thing is, what is his importance? So based off how he looks, what do you think he was? What's his importance in history? You know, so just based off this picture, what do you think? Then the second question asks you, how do you think this artist is trying to portray him? How do you think this artist is trying to make him look? Okay, that's what portray means. How they try to make you look. So how is this artist trying to make this guy look? Does it make him look scared? Does it make it look like he's like Mr. Chingon? Does it make him look like he's you know heroic? What is it? What do you think? Okay, what do you believe? Okay. So pause the video, write your responses. Okay. Well, we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So the French Revolution, it's over. Okay. Now it's come to this time of stability. Okay. What do we do? How do we get things together? So it came to the point where some people were like, well, instead of counting everybody, everyone should have the right to vote. It should be some qualified voters, right? Not all 26 million people. So what they did was they said, if you owned land or if you own land, you rent it, you are a qualified voter. Here's the problem. There's 26 million people in France. The people who own land, it's only about 30,000 people. So some people were just like, well, that's not right. That's not right. That only 30,000 out of 26 million should have the right to vote. Now, the Constitution that they drafted, that they created, called for an executive form of a committee of five. Again, 26 million people, five people are in charge, and they became known as the Directory. Okay, right away, right away, they started being corrupt. They started looking like, how can I make money from this position? How can I make money? And that's what these guys are doing. They're taking money. They're doing favors, and then getting money. They're doing this and that, doing shady stuff. So the directory only lasted 4 years. The people were just so upset with this group. You know, they were supposed to lead and basically look out for the people. They just looked out for themselves. Now the thing is, some people made a pretty good amount of money during that 4 years. Um, People who had contracts with the government, they would bribe the council, and then they would say like, "Oh, I'm gonna, charge you $10 million to fix all the roads, or roads in this part of France." You know, so they would like bribe those executive guys, but then charge the government a bunch of money. You know, or they would loan money to the government to pay for things, but then they would raise the interest rate. So they'd be like, yeah, you can, I'll loan you $100,000, but the interest rate's going to be like 36%. So that means if they don't pay the 100,000, they're not going to pay the 100,000. They're going to pay 136,000 because the 36% interest rate. And if they don't pay it right away, then it becomes not just another 36,000. It becomes 36% of 136,000, which is even more than 36,000, and it just keeps piling and piling on. Okay, the common people, the average folks, felt that they were being used, and that these electors are basically just all they did was care about themselves, that they weren't about the people, which they should have been. So again, sorry. So again, the directory is starting to feel like the pressure. So what he does, or what they do, is basically to maintain power, they start to use the military. Okay, but there's one military leader who basically says, "No, I am not going to do what you want just to keep you in power. No, no, you're supposed to be serving the people, and you're not doing that. And I refuse to take part in this." And so basically, what he did is then turned on the government. That guy right there, that's Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a very successful and popular general. You're going to find out why in a little bit. So when he turned on the government in 1799, he toppled that directory group in a coup. Now, the word is coup d'état. Okay, coup d'état means an overthrow of the government. You'll hear this word quite a bit throughout history and in the news sometimes in another country. Usually, or like even what happened in Washington D.C. on January 6th, 2001. There was attempted coup. They tried to overturn the government. Um, it happens in a lot of places around the world where either the military or the people basically just overturn the government. They're sick of the way it is and they take control. Okay, so you'll hear the term coup. It's a coup or a coup d'état. Right. So he seized power when he did this, and while he's in charge, it became known as the Age of Napoleon. So here's your first question. Do you believe deceptive people, shady people, and people with money, do you think they're always going to try to take advantage when there's chaotic situations going on? You know, what do you think? Do you think that people, um, and I'm sure you've seen it, when times are bad, stuff like that, you'll see these people saying, like, when the housing market's going bad, you'll see people saying, oh, well, you can lower your rates by this and this and that, doing this and that. And a lot of times it doesn't work. A lot of times it's a shady little thing, you know, or when people are really hurting, they try to do like a pyramid scheme, and things like that. Or people with money, they try to find a way to make more money, especially during time of war, things like that. You know, people losing their homes, they start buying property because they know that eventually the market's going to go back up, and then they're going to sell it, at an even higher price than before or what it's worth, because they know, hey, people need houses, they need that property. So what do you think? Um, Pause the video, give your response, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So here's a little history thing on Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was born in 1769. Now here's the thing: his family was not rich, but they were not like dirt poor either. But the thing was, he showed promise. He was a very smart young man. He was, pretty physically athletic. So he got a scholarship to a very famous military school in France. Now, when he was done, he was actually appointed as lieutenant of the French army. So he was already up there in rank. Here's the thing though. A lot of the French people, they have this accent, when they speak French. He had he spoke French, but in an Italian accent, which was kind of unique, especially at that time. Um, Now, as soon as he's over school, he's in the army, he starts climbing up the ranks. And in 1792, he becomes a captain. 2 years later, he's made brigadier general by the Committee of Public Safety, the group that Maxwell uh, Robespierre created. You know, He was made a brigadier general. 2 years later, after that, he's made commander of the French army in Italy. Because remember, during the French Revolution, while they were fighting amongst themselves, a lot of other countries are like, well, while they're fighting amongst themselves, let's try to take a part of France. Let's try to get in there and take land. His job was to take care of the Italians, and he did. He really did. Um, and the thing was, word spread about Napoleon because the way his tactics were very, very, very well. He had the speed where he could bam attack people before they even realized it. The element of surprise, he always seemed to have it, and his decisive action. He could look at a battlefield and go, okay, it looks like we're going to be losing on this side, so let's reinforce that. Let's send these cavalry this way. If they move this way, we're going to go this. And he was on the ball. He was on the ball on this. Okay. Now the thing is, his troops, they loved him. Not only because they had victory after victory after victory, but he didn't lose that many men compared to other generals, that were going against like Spain and, Russia and things like that. He wasn't losing them as much, and he kept winning and winning and winning. So in 1799, he returns to France and he's a public hero. People know who he is, and they're like, this is a guy who knows his stuff. So this is when the directory then tells him, we need you to maintain the people and things like that, that they don't overthrow us. And that's when Napoleon goes, no. So when he turned against them and he's helped set up a new government, the people basically said, okay, you should be the consulate. Okay. Basically, he had absolute power. He was like a king. That's what absolute power means. You have whatever you say goes. So he appointed officials. He controlled the army, obviously, which a lot of people really liked. He controlled foreign affairs, so he talked with other countries, made peace with them, declared war, things like that. And he influenced laws, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So in 1802, Napoleon was basically appointed consul for life. They're like, you're awesome. We want you to be in charge for life. You're the consul for life. 2 years later after that, Napoleon's like, remember, he's a student of history. He loves military tactics, things like that, military history. And it hits him. He's like, you know what? Consul? That term doesn't do really good. So Napoleon crowns himself Emperor Napoleon the First. The thing is, the term emperor has historical significant. Consuls, because consul doesn't sound as like with muscle as emperor, emperor, consul, emperor, consul. See, there's a difference. Even if you try to sound consul, make it sound butch. It doesn't sound consul. No, emperor though. Emperor. That's Roman. That's Julius Caesar. As Marcus Aurelius. That's emperor. Okay. So here's my question to you. With Napoleon now as emperor, which is basically a king, do you think that those people who died during the French Revolution died for nothing? Because remember, they fought and they killed so many people because of the king, the way the structure was, at the top took advantage, and they come full circle. They go back to a king. They go back to an emperor. So let me know what you think. Do you think all those people, all those 440,000 who died during the French Revolution, do you think they died for nothing? Or do you think there was still a purpose why for executing all those people, the nobles, the king, the queen, and all those other people who were going against the revolution? Do you think they died for nothing? Let me know. Okay, so pause the video because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So The thing is, remember, if you remember from last week, there were some people who felt that France should be de-Christianized, that they felt, it should go back to, it should be focused on science and reason and not religion, because religion is like superstitious. So Napoleon, when he took over, he's like, no, 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 no. There's a lot of Catholic people here in France. So basically, what he did is went to the Pope and said, you know what, we want to make peace with you. So him and the Pope, they had an agreement. He declares that the Catholic Church is the official church of France. It's not the only church. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit. And any land that was taken during the revolution is now going to be given back to the church. Now, before Napoleon, there was like 300 different legal systems around. Meaning, like, if you stole in this part of France, your punishment might be to either pay for the item, return it, you know, things like that. In this part next door, your punishment for like stealing might be like getting your hand cut off. You know, the punishments were all different. The For each crime, things like that, and so it wasn't really consistent around France. So Napoleon, when he took over, he changed that to where there was basically 7 codes, and one of the most famous is the Civil Code, also called the Napoleonic Code. What it said was that every citizen, beside him, is equal before the law. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, whatever, whatever. You steal, you're gonna face a punishment. The other thing he did was he had this thing where the people could choose, they had the right to choose their jobs. Because in some places, in like little towns, like if your dad was a barber, you had to be a barber because that town needed a barber, you know. So they try to keep those industries going in little places. And Napoleon's like, no, 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 no. You, the people, you get to choose what you want to be. If you want to be a carpenter, be a carpenter. You want to be a blacksmith, be a blacksmith. You want to be a writer, be a writer. You choose your own destiny. Like I told you with the church, that the Catholic Church was the official church of France, but like I said, it wasn't the only one. And that's another thing he said. All religions will be tolerated. So it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Catholic, Muslim, Calvinist, you will be respected. You know, your church will be recognized. But the official church of France is Catholic. Okay, that's just it. But you can still be whatever religion you want. Serfdom and the feudal system, the whole peasants, nobles, king. He's like, none of that. He goes, that's one of the reasons why we had the French Revolution and all this stuff. It's because they put people in classes like, oh, we're better than you, because we're nobles and clergy, and you're just, peasants. He's like, no, get rid of that. However, there were a couple things that he changed that were for the worse, especially for women. One of them was it was no longer easy to get a divorce. It was very hard. It went back to the way it was before. So if a woman was married to a man and she wanted a divorce, it was extremely hard. I mean, really hard to get a divorce now. So basically, if you married a man, that's it. The other thing was women could not inherit property anymore. It had to be passed on to the son. And the reason why is because a lot of times the people who had land were noblemen or they were farmers. And especially with the farmers, they felt that the women wouldn't know what to do, how to maintain this land. Um, and the noble people who had land, it's like you wouldn't know what to do with it. You build a business or a farm on it. I mean, yeah, so don't. Okay. So another thing he did was there were 73 newspapers in France. He shut down 60 of them. He banned a bunch of books, saying you can't read this book because it goes against what we believe here in France and what the government's about, and la la la. New books had to be read by the government before it could be printed, and even some mail was read before it was delivered. So imagine getting a letter from your grandma or whomever, and it's already open, you know. So yeah. Um, Now the thing is, Napoleon knows that he's really good at war. He knows military history, military tactics. He's been very, very successful before. So what he does is he basically goes an all-out assault on Europe. And he basically says, kind of like Genghis Khan, either you're with me or I take over you. You pick. You come with me or I roll right over you. You choose. Some places, especially smaller countries, accepted. The other way he made peace with some other countries is through marriage. My daughter will marry your son. The princess will marry the prince. My cousin will marry your, so and so, and that's how they negotiated peace between two countries. Now the thing is, Napoleon's like, okay, man, I am taking over. My kingdom, my empire will last for like 100 years. Now here's the thing, though. Countries like Britain, Portugal, Sweden, and Russia, they didn't like each other, especially like Britain and Russia. They really didn't like each other. But they had a bigger enemy, somebody they both hated, which was France, particularly Napoleon, because he's on a rampage to just take over Europe, take over the world. That's his goal. So they're looking at each other and they're like, you know what? Let's put our differences aside and let's team up because this guy, we gotta take care of him. He's getting too big-headed. So here's your next question. Do you believe the proverb, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Do you find that to be true? Why or why not? So again, look, I know it's kind of some of your classmates kind of got confused with the saying. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So your enemy's enemy, that you guys should be friends, or that you guys are friends. Do you think that's true? So again, let's say you don't like this person, right? Now that enemy that you don't like, they have an enemy over here. I should put my hand right here. So the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That you guys should be friends, or that is your friend. Do you think that's true? Why or why not? Okay. So pause the video. Uh, write down what you got to write down, what you believe. But we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So remember, you're only going to answer one of these questions. The first one is, looking back at how Napoleon went from kid to emperor, do you believe that that was his goal? That may have been his goal from the beginning. That I want to be the leader of this country. Because remember, he rose up quick. You think that was always his goal, or do you think he was just like, I'm going to do what I got to do and be the best I can? What do you think? Okay, and justify your answer. The second one is, which law from the Napoleonic Code do you think was a good or bad one? And then why do you believe this? Justify your answer. So if you forgot the codes, you can go back to that part of the video and you can like pause it and see the codes, what laws were in that code, and tell me. Okay. The last one is, do you think Napoleon is taking on too much by challenging all of Europe? Do you think he's like biting off more than he can chew? You know, and basically the other part, half of it is, do you think he's going to win? What do you think? And then why do you believe this? Okay, so um, remember, pick one. Okay, once you are finished, you are done for this lesson. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I hope you learned something new. All right. So you guys, again, I do apologize for the tardiness of this video. I mean it with my the deepest part of my heart. I'm so sorry. Um, but you know, it's only so much I can do as a person. Okay. So you guys take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys later.